Heed the Call with Hanzus and Marc Sessler is on Underdog, so why not start playing on Underdog today? It's easy. Just you versus the projections. Simply choose higher or lower, and you could win up to 1,000 times your entry. Download and play on the Underdog app. Sign up with the code HTC, that's us, and receive up to $1,000 in bonus cash for our U.S. audience only. And one more thing before we get going. Heed the Call is now on its own YouTube channel. And we implore you to subscribe to that new channel, youtube.com/@HeedTheCallPod. Please be there. Support the show. We really appreciate it. On with the show.
The Heed the Call podcast would like to solve the puzzle. 7:30, 8 prime time, say Jack.
It ain't. You know, Mark, back in 2011, our second year working together at the NFL, I remember writing a story on the website about Mike Shanahan, then the Washington head coach, who said that he would stake his reputation on Rex Grossman and John Beck as his quarterbacks. Here's the quote: "I believe in him, and I've been doing this for a long time. And I put my reputation on these guys that they can play." It was a ludicrous statement, Mark, proven as such when Grossman and Beck went on to stink out the joint in that 5-11 season for the then Redskins. Humbled, well, this is a Shanahan we're talking about, definitely not humbled, but not undeterred, humble. Yeah. Washington made a blockbuster trade the following spring and landed Heisman Trophy winner Robert Griffin III with the second overall pick. RG3, of course, has a remarkable rookie season. Who could forget? I think maybe his first touchdown, that long bomb, that long touchdown run early in the season where he just got outside the edge and just shot down the sideline. He ended up throwing over 20 touchdown passes, ran for 8 more, won Offensive Rookie of the Year, even though it was Andrew Luck's rookie year too. And we know, Mark, how that ended up with RG3. He gets injured. Mike Shanahan shoulders some blame about the downfall of RG3's career, him even playing with an ACL injury that year, and was never the same. And it's been wilderness ever since for the Washington football team, which makes tonight, Mark, so notable and potentially game-changing for that organization.
What I love about this is that we didn't discuss this prior to the show, and I wrote a note that, the last time that I watched a rookie quarterback kind of change my feeling about rookie quarterbacks and the league and specifically this team was RG3. And I recalled a time on Thanksgiving where I got tagged with a Detroit Lions game where Ndamukong Suh stomped the groin of Matt Schaub. And then I ran to the airport to get on a plane. But during that airport stay, you have a beer or two, I watched RG3 light up the Dallas Cowboys. And
well, I was covering that game.
And that was the whole point, that you were midday, not stuck because we love doing what we do, but you were.
No, on Thanksgiving it's very much
kind of
stuck.
You're kind of stuck. And you were kind of stuck, and I was like, I'm glad I'm not Dan right now. And we can feel that way back and forth, but the look on Jerry Jones's face recalled another night when I believe they played the Giants on Monday Night Football, and the Shanahans hit RG3. They hit him all training camp. You didn't know what was going to happen until I believe they played the Saints, if I'm not mistaken, in the opening game of his career. And suddenly he was unleashed. And it was like, wait a minute, what is happening? This player is unleashed on us. They did not tell us what they were doing on offense. And that Monday night game that I point out, the Giants linebacker specifically had no idea what to do with the pistol, which was not an NFL thing. I know it's a Jordan thing now, but it was not an NFL thing then until it suddenly was. And he burst on the scene, beguiling defenses. And tonight does recall that to some degree, because what Jayden Daniels is doing, what he did tonight for a team that's been in the wilderness for so very, very long, from ownership on down, was remarkable. And it stands out as one of the biggest stories of the entire season.
Hit the music, Justin. Yes, it was the game the Washington football fans have been waiting for, for 12 years. Rookie Jayden Daniels, the number 2 overall pick. Yes, Another number 2 overall pick for this franchise. Another bright, shining hope. Throws for 2 touchdowns, ran for a score. 21 of 23 for 254 yards. And the Commanders shocked the Bengals. I mean, there's no other way around it. 38-33. And yeah, Mark, Daniels is the story because, well, there's 2 big stories here. It's what the hell happened to the Cincinnati Bengals, now 0-3, and facing a lot of questions this week, and a season that was supposed to be getting right after the frustrations of the Burrow injury year last year, but instead they're facing down the idea of being irrelevant before the leaves even change. But for the Commanders, the Daniels performance in this game, every time they needed a big play, this kid was making big plays, and he's not doing it alone, and you got to give credit, and I know that's not something anybody expected to do this year or ever again, but what Cliff Kingsbury did in this game, this offense did not punt. This offense was locked in, and when the game was on the line in the fourth quarter and the Washington had a chance to either play it a little conservative and try to get another field goal and get the lead back to I believe they were up 5, right? So get the lead back up to 8, or go for the jugular. And what happens? Daniels drops back and drops it in the bucket, 27 yards to Terry McLaurin. Good to see you again, Terry, to ice the game. That was unbelievable.
This is a quarterback that's 61 for 76 over 2 weeks, or over 3 weeks, and is 21 for 23 tonight. And Cliff Kingsbury, run out of the NFL to some degree, has done a good job coaching him. And in general, like Jayden Daniels, I feel that there's an energy around a lot of these rookie quarterbacks, and we've seen it where it's just the moment's too big, and you realize they need another 15 to 20 starts to get into a place where they can kind of be in their own skin. He's already there. He's calm. There's an in-control demeanor to him. And, they went out last week against the Giants and author nonstop scoring drives. They were field goals, but he's producing points. And tonight they put up 3 touchdown drives in a row for the first time since 2015. He's got the arm. He's incredibly smart on third down. He can use his legs. He beguiled Cincinnati to the point where their pass rush, which is one of their strengths with Trey Hendrickson, was nullified until late in the game. And he's putting the heat on a Bengals coaching staff with Lou Anarumo that on the Thursday show, and I wasn't wrong, said that this is a coach that can find a way to match up with quarterbacks and shut them down. And they were completely outmatched tonight. And it's kind of crazy because we'll get to the Bengals, but they actually statistically were really, really efficient tonight. It just didn't look like it because of what Washington and Jayden Daniels were able to do drive after drive. They kept going for the throat.
Yeah, and I think that's what really stood out to me. Obviously, the athleticism was next level. There was a moment in the game where Daniels, on another kind of big play in the third quarter, juked a linebacker out of his shoes on the way to the first down. And just in general, going back to the game-clinching touchdown to McLaurin, that was on an otherwise, sterling day for Cliff Kingsbury. That felt a little bit jumbled, the situation there where the play clock was winding down. There was obviously some miscommunications going on, and Daniels is the quarterback. As a rookie playing in his third game, you could easily imagine that leading to either a false start or the play clock expires. Instead, he gets things calmed down to not just get the play off, but then throw just a beautiful rainbow touch pass exactly where it needs to be. So that type of poise is very unusual. So if you have, for a player with this little experience, so if you have a kid that is not afraid of the moment, a lot of people were watching it, and when you combine poise with the athleticism he has, and then sensing obviously a flair for the dramatic, we're cooking with something now, Washington. So this is a really huge story now, and we just talked about it on the Sunday show, how Malik Neighbors had that big game for the Giants, and he's off to this great start, and maybe the offensive rookie of the year is not going to be a quarterback as it typically is. The Gravedigger in our preseason predictions did go with Daniels. And Justin, I believe you cited his ability to run the football and accumulate stats that would really help him in this type of situation. But it might even go beyond compiling nice numbers. Like Washington could be a team if this guy's going to be a dog like this week after week.
Yeah, I mentioned on the Sunday night recap that Malik Neighbors had likely overtaken Daniels as the favorite. And in fact, I looked up the odds after we taped, and instead of doing it while we were taping to have the most up-to-date information, I waited till after the show. But in fact, Neighbors did surpass Daniels as of this morning.
Not anymore.
For the favorite. But right now, I'm looking at the odds, and Jayden Daniels is back at the top as the favorite. So I do think like the rushing yards, I mean, that was something I said because that's like what voters love to see, a stuffed stat sheet. But if this Washington team can win 8 or more games, then I feel like he's going to maybe lock up the award.
Yeah, I mean, it's now it's obviously he's in position to do that. And why don't we turn now, Mark, to the Cincinnati side of things, where just an absolute disaster for this team at home in prime time. You get T. Higgins back. Jamar Chase and Burrow hook up for a long touchdown immediately to start the game. The celebration is on in Cincinnati. And for the defense to have the night that it had tonight, and Lou Anarumo and Zach Taylor, obviously shoulder blame, as do the players, of course, that is unbelievable to get beat in this spot, and a harsh wake-up call for a team that considered itself a Super Bowl contender entering the year.
It is. It's kind of it's just these losses on these island games, and I know that it wasn't. There were multiple islands tonight, and we can get into that later. But to lose the way they did and to have a rookie kind of break out and shine is one of the worst losses for a fan base. Like, I hate when that happens to my team. We know that feeling. But this is an offense that scored on 7 possessions, 4 touchdowns, 2 field goals, and there was a missed field goal. So they were in position to score. So
neither team punted.
There were no punts and no turnovers for the first time in a game since 1940. That stat is going wild, and now that's not breaking news at this point. But that's kind of insane. So it just does this, like, it tells us that Joe Burrow isn't done. The offense isn't done. This was a bit of a car crash in a different way. I still think, I don't know why with the Bengals, it feels like the friend that has a major personal problem. And maybe I'm that friend to some people, but it's like they've got issues where you've got to kind of hold their hand and just assume that they'll get there at some point. And it's like we keep telling each other, like the Bengals, they'll get there. Like tonight was another night where they're almost there, but they'll be there at some point, and they're very dangerous. And we love Joe Burrow, and it's like it wasn't on Joe Burrow tonight. I thought it was like the connection with Jamar Chase was extremely promising, but they are on offense a little bit of a, we're going to beat you with our star wide receiver and star quarterback. And if that doesn't work, right? Like, it's kind of got to be that. And T. Higgins is back in the mix to some degree, but it's like, if that's not working, they're not the Chiefs, and they're not these other teams that kind of, even the Bills tonight, we'll get to it, like, find a way to beat you in so many different fashions. Like, they do not. They're going to beat you through the air with their star players. They were competitive on offense, but it's, to me, the defense is a concern tonight.
They were more than competitive. The Bengals outgained Washington by 80 yards. They had 1.1 more yards per play. They averaged 6.2 yards per carry. They did not turn the ball over, as we said, passed for 312 yards. But none of it mattered because the defense was that bad. The defense had to make one goddamn stop in this game in the second half and could not do it, could not get off the field. So, you know, every team has these bad days. Every defense has a bad day, and you kind of live with it, and they're not as bad as they look tonight. But when you start 0-2, the level of urgency is through the roof. And for the defense to lay an egg at that level, now it puts them in a spot where they're in deep trouble. Like, I mean, obviously the history backs these things up. I'll say this. I'm stepping back from, on some level, being bullish about Cincinnati, but I still don't think they're done. And I look at their schedule. They go to Carolina next week, and who knows? You know, like Andy Dalton revenge game. You know, that you never know what could happen. Now they might be a juggernaut. Then they have home against the Ravens, at Giants, at the Browns. I mean, the pathway just to get back into contention is there, but it has to shake the confidence of everyone that supports that team, and behind the scenes in that locker room. Shit, we just got buried by this rookie in a game in our building in primetime that we needed, we might not be so good after all. And that is, as the season spins forward, we're going to now have to see whether the Bengals are actually worth a damn.
Well, and this is why I love Gravedigger. He while we're doing this, he drums up these incredible numbers, but they're 0-3. And so you go back to 1990. I was a junior in high school, and I'm not saying 1890, but 1990. Just 2.5% of teams that started 0-3 made the playoffs. Like, you can't just keep we don't just keep incubating you and growing you out of the crib and waiting for the Bengals to do the thing where a child finally crawls out of the crib and you find them on the carpet and it's cute even though they're not hurt. It's like, no, you've got to find this was the game that like a couple weeks ago you think like, oh, they'll slay Washington. I think most people thought they would have beaten Washington by 15, 20 points tonight.
This is why I don't bet, by the way. I mean, I love having fun on underdog, but why would you ever like get involved when these things can happen? Like everything was pointing to Cincinnati taking care of business, but the league and the teams are so close together, and performances like the Daniels, we've seen it in the past. These things can happen, and it happened again.
The only thing I'd say, though, is that there was some evidence that Daniels was this guy tonight. Not to this degree and not in this fashion against a team that we thought was a Super Bowl team, but his performance against the Giants and what he's done in general, this is an accurate quarterback that leads the league in first down rushes. Like, he's generated more first downs with his legs. He's been incredibly accurate. He doesn't turn the ball over. And if that's the case, you've got a chance against any team. And when Cincinnati's pass rush completely disappears tonight, it's the perfect setting. And this is not a great Commanders offensive line. I mean, they were fine tonight, but it's like Daniels is going to be that guy that suddenly changes what we think about an entire organization. Like, Hope is this like airship, this air dirigible now for a team that we thought, well, maybe next year or the year after, but suddenly they're here. And it's like the Browns thought, oh, Washington's a win on their schedule. The Bengals thought that, and it's like, not at this point. Like, this team is rough, and like they are at the top of the NFC East right now. And I just want to see what happens. I love football for that reason. It's like a team we weren't even talking about, or if we were slashing them verbally. Here they are. And
just to not to put any cold water on it, this will be a memorable game regardless for Washington's fans. Because it will either be the night that Jayden Daniels announced that he was the next star in the NFL, or this is the high point of his career. Like, you never know. But like for one night, this was the promise of something potentially special, and that's
pretty dark. But
I'm saying not that like he'll never be successful, or we're about to talk about Trevor Lawrence. Like, you never know how these guys develop or don't develop. But what you always have was that Monday night in Cincinnati. When we had this amazing time at the house because Jayden Daniels just tore the Bengals apart limb from limb in their own building.
I mean, you have him running like a dive bar in like Northwest D.C. about 12 years from now. So let's see how this turns out.
JD's Tavern.
Yeah.
All right. One last thing, because it was great on the telecast. I love this. Like, I love like having a chip on your shoulder. I find so much of my drive comes from sticking it to people who doubted us or crossed us, or I felt, what you have to rise above what people thought of you or believed you could be or couldn't be. Well, Jayden Daniels was a star at LSU, but he admitted and acknowledged, and they talked about it on the telecast, that he lived in the long shadow of Joe Burrow, who is a legend down by the bayou and had, that famous championship season where he was smoking the cigar in the Superdome and everything. Guy is a living legend for that fan base. Well, Mr. Daniels stepped out of that shadow and into the spotlight tonight. So pretty freaking awesome.
Can I add like a Trent squared note here? Left tackle Trent Brown for the Bengals. Don't like that. Injured. But then Jayden Daniels' first touchdown ever is to, and this is a Mike DeGar shout out, is to offensive tackle Trent Scott. So two big men named Trent diverge this evening on that fork in the road. We'll see what happens.
I kind of like my clothes better, but that was cool too.
Factual, but all right.
Good Trent update. All right. Let's now move to the other Monday night game. The real primetime game. Even if it wasn't the real story, well, yeah, there are big storylines coming out of Bills v. Jaguars, too. Let's start, though, with some comments you heard from Shad Khan, owner of the Jacksonville Jaguars, prior to the start of the season.
Winning now is the expectation. Make no mistake, this is the best team assembled by the Jacksonville Jaguars ever. Best players, best coaches, but most importantly, let's prove it by winning now.
Let's prove it by winning now. How about later? How about we win later? Like October, maybe?
Sure.
Is that okay, boss?
Down the road.
Down the road. Eventually, we'll win a game. The Buffalo Bills had no interest in the Jaguars getting on their feet this season in their building. And the Bengals take note. This is how you deal with someone that comes into your house with the lights up. 47-10. The Bills drop a hammer on the Jags. The Bills improve to 3-0. The Jags drop to 0-3. And Mark, Josh Allen was an absolute dynamo. If we're talking about offensive rookie of the year favorite now being Jayden Daniels, we also saw the MVP favorite in action in Josh Allen, who threw 4 touchdown passes in the first half alone, and the Bills scored on each of their first 5 drives and then just rolled to the finish line with an easy win. So, talk about narratives that get busted up, Mark. All the talk about the Bills and did the window close and this is the weakest Bills team yet. All a bunch of bullshit. And Josh Allen, speaking of guys with chips on their shoulder and draw from this idea of being doubted, I think that's cooking a little bit here in this fantastic start for the Bills. I
mean, I'm one of those people, like dating back to
we are not alone.
Season. No, I was down on the Bills. I thought that they were in a bit of a restructure. I'm not going to call it a rebuild, but I didn't love the roster going into the season. I didn't like the energy around the team. I didn't like it last season, and I got annoyed with people that just ticketed them for the AFC playoffs or title game, especially. I think tonight is a huge victory for Sean McDermott, especially on defense, and we'll get to that. But just the Sean McDermott model. Brandon Beane, for the fact that they put together a team that, and I mentioned it before, it kind of reminds me on some level about the way that I think about the Chiefs, where it's like you thought that they lacked star power, but they've found a way 3 weeks into the season to use a lot of different guys in a lot of different ways. Shakir, James Cook, like Kincaid, like Josh Allen is already in sync with all of them. And to look at these numbers, because a lot of it has to do with the defense too, that is missing a couple guys, but you got Von Miller stepping up at halftime, because I viewed this game over at halftime. Tell me if I'm being too, cavalier there, but they had 288 yards Mark, to 70.
It was 34-3 at halftime, so I don't think you were really on a...
I'm not alone thinking that, but it was just the ability to drop that kind of a hammer on a team that a couple of weeks ago you would have thought has quality players, has a quality quarterback, and when you can take an opponent and put them into an absolute corner of darkness the way that they have with the terrible Jacksonville Jaguars right now, and a quarterback in Trevor Lawrence where, Dan, I'm like, what is happening with this person's career? His career is falling apart before our eyes, and it's attached to a coach, a Super Bowl winning coach that was hired to turn him into an A-plus higher echelon starter, and everything is spinning into complete chaos.
Yeah, I think the Jaguars have lost 8 straight games now dating back to last year. And Lawrence, he just got that huge contract, and it's not really a hindsight 2020 thing. I kept on hearing that, Lawrence has to get paid next, and he'll get paid, and I just kept thinking to myself, so what is the level that you have to get to as a quarterback to get the contract that puts you in the top 5 of all players in the league? And Trevor Lawrence, to me, simply hasn't done enough to earn that beyond being the number 1 overall pick and looking the part. And he certainly has had moments in his career, the playoff comeback, obviously chief among them a couple seasons ago. But there's also been a lot of evidence that he is not the generational player that they thought they were getting. And yet, and this maybe speaks organizationally to some issues, and that Shad Khan speech that you heard to the players before the season, and Tony Khan making a spectacle of himself during the draft with the neck brace and doing the bit for the Wrestling Federation. Like, how seriously should we take?
That's at the heart of it, but I hear you.
I'm just saying, but it's all of like a larger piece of how seriously should we take this franchise, because it almost, especially when you just look at the results and the way Trevor Lawrence is playing. I mean, he played poorly in this game, and he has not had a good year so far. That they just make decisions based on an image of what they believe they have and what they can be, rather than what they actually are. And that's not going to work in our league. And you saw that in this game. This team was totally unprepared. In addition to the defense not being able to get a single stop on Josh Allen in the first half, they put up 70 yards. So in a game that right before the game started, I think it was Dan Orlovsky on the ESPN coverage, had a comment where he said, like, I think this is the biggest start of Trevor Lawrence's career. And the first thing I scoffed, and I said, oh my God, these guys are so annoying. That's so lame. And then I was thinking about it. I was like, maybe I see what he's talking about, because this is a player that is now under contract for a huge amount of money. They're in a big spot on the road in week 3 at 0-2, and they are looking to get their whole fortunes turned around, and you needed him to lead them. And instead, he shrunk while the other quarterback across the sideline absolutely balled out. So it's a terrible look for Lawrence, a terrible look for the Jags, and you just wonder what's next there, and you wonder if some butts are getting hot, because Khan is now being embarrassed, Mark, by the performance of the team that he thought was so excellent.
Oh, I think butts are hot. I think this is, as Connor Orrs mentioned, a job that someone else would want, because they think they can fix what they see that is clearly broken. He's got the second worst completion percentage in the league at a time when, compared to years ago, you'd have players like now at this point, everyone is like 68 to 70% or more completion percentage, and he's not connecting with his wide receivers. Like the moment tonight that I thought was just it was like a sports moment more than just a Trevor Lawrence moment, but they have a chance. They're fighting for oxygen. They're trying to get back in the game. He overthrows Brian Thomas Jr., who's one of the bright spots on this team, and I really think this is someone they can build around, right into the arms of Damar Hamlin, who goes 19 yards with it into Jacksonville territory. I mean, to have that happen on prime time after everything else, not couched on some early game on Sunday, but tonight in front of everyone, it was a crescendoing moment for the Bills, and also I think for the Jaguars, like the complete dark mirror opposite of like what is happening to this franchise. We are falling apart. We're falling apart, and I think that hot butts is kind at this point. I'm boiling butts. Butts are boiling, Dan.
Boiling butts. That is disgusting, but potentially accurate. Yeah, you're referring to. So it's 20-3 with 4 minutes and 13 seconds to play in the second quarter. So this was really the last chance for Jacksonville to stay in the game. And Brian Thomas wide open, and Lawrence just airmails him. And last year, I think a lot of you could call it excuses or just explanations, but I think in general, people that watch the game and think that Lawrence is a big-time quarterback were quick to kind of wave away how bad he was last year because he was hurt and he was playing through an injury and he probably should have shut it down sooner. But there's nowhere to hide now. I mean, the performance that he had in this game and in general, the start to his season is that of a very average quarterback that is being paid like a superstar. The Hamlin story is so great, by the way, because obviously it wasn't so long ago that he was laying on the turf of that stadium, dying. His heart had stopped, and the staff there saved his life with some quick actions. And then he comes back, and it's pretty gutsy to me, and still insane, all due respect, Mark, to Joe Flacco and the Cleveland Browns, that Damar Hamlin didn't win Comeback Player of the Year last year. But anyway, that's beside the point. He gets the interception. The fact that he came back to play football is a miracle. Here is Hamlin after the game speaking into an iPhone. Could be an Android. Probably an iPhone.
It was Mafia, what up? It's 3. Monday Night Football, you was good to me this time. I appreciate it. Go Bills, man. We got another one, 3-0.
That's an understatement. Monday Night Football, you were good to me this time.
Yeah, I think. Because he's in good spirits. I thought there was an interesting tweet that Trevor Lawrence is the only NFL quarterback who's thrown an interception to someone who died. We can make a joke of that now, but what is kind of crazy.
Mark, you did. I wouldn't do such a thing.
You know what?
Marc Sessler made that decision, and that's where you could send the letters. What's that P.O. box?
I will provide it up at the end of the show. Yes, I hope to hear everyone's outrage about that. But I mean, that's where we're at this point. It's just, what an insane, that was the worst deficit in the first half the Jaguars have ever had. I mean, for Shad Khan to say this is the best team we've ever assembled, he's like, here, what did he say? Hear me now, or take me seriously?
I think owners, he's an example of owners are best to be seen but not heard.
Shadows.
They have an important role.
Yeah.
They sign the checks.
Shadows and wallets.
You don't have to talk.
Yeah.
You don't have to talk. And speaking of, we weren't allowed to say this on the old show.
No.
Owners, you don't need to talk. And it's probably better if you don't.
Yeah, and it's that wasn't in a small scrum with two reporters or a private one-on-one. It was in front of the entire team. And, it would shake the confidence of the person running the entire organization if their assessment is what it was.
All right. Last word we'll give to Doug Peterson. Here's what he had to say about the disaster for the Jaguars.
I'll tell you this, no one's going to feel sorry for us, right? I mean, this is who we are right now, and it's not very good, right? And we have to be honest, with ourselves, and I've got to be honest with myself, and just keep plugging away.
As for the Bills, Mark, they are 3-0, and they have a quarterback playing out of his mind, and I cannot wait till next Monday night because we get Bills at Ravens. Spicy.
Right. But another double Monday night, though.
Titans at Dolphins was
right, because they're shoving Titans Dolphins on us too. So maybe we, why are they doing this? I mean, I know why, I guess. Why are they doing this?
Do they even have to play the Titans Dolphins game? If they didn't play that game, right, and they just do a coin flip to decide who gets W and who gets L, is anyone going to complain?
I won't, and I'm a Titans fan.
That also, just in terms of where we're at, is one of the worst primetime games we've dealt with in a long, long time. Well, okay,
I think it's a Sajak game.
Monday,
I think it's another Sajak
Monday.
game. Don't hit us with that Sajak game and think you're going to fool us. All right. Anything else?
Yes, the Jaguars' night is only getting worse because they're, according to Rap Sheet, stuck on the tarmac and will not be able to depart Buffalo until after 1 a.m.
Oh. See, Gravedigger, your team is horrendous, but you're not alone. So are the Jaguars, but they're trapped in Western New York, so things can always be worse.
One of my favorite tweets of the night was the AFC South has completed the arc. They went from the worst division in football to a division with 4 exciting young quarterbacks back to the worst division in football in a 3-week time frame.
So quick. I made that exact point, I think, in the Week 1 recap, that this could be a really spicy, fun quarterback division. After watching Tony Richardson yesterday and Lawrence today, and, we got Mason Rudolph. We're staring down the barrel of Mason Rudolph in Nashville. Maron. All right, let's take a break, and we'll hit some news.
Another week, another Underdog promo calendar that you won't believe. Here's what's coming your way for Week 4. On Tuesday, a Patrick Mahomes free pick drops. On Wednesday, there are boosts for both MLB and WNBA. You'll get a profit boost token on Thursday, a mystery promo on Friday, and even more profit boosts for the college football and NFL weekend ahead. So download and start playing today on the Underdog app. Sign up with the code HTC, that's us, and receive up to $1,000 in bonus cash for our U.S. audience only.
All right, we are back. All right, Mark, now we must pivot to the news.
We talk about news because we've chosen to do, this is our careers. This is what we've chosen to do with our adult lives, Dan.
Or did it choose us? You know what I mean, man?
Yeah, energy.
Yes, Justin.
I just want to issue a correction. You know, sometimes publications or news organizations issue a correction if they have something wrong. Just a quick correction to issue. You said the Jaguars have lost 8 straight games. Also, yes, I'm going to keep saying Jaguars. I don't care. The Jags have not lost 8 straight games dating back to last year.
So I said that.
You said that earlier, last segment. Trevor Lawrence has lost 8 straight starts, but they did win the game that he was out.
If we're Listen, there's so much depressing shit going on in the AFC South. Like it's hard to keep track of it all, and I'm doing my best. So somebody lost 8 in a row, but it wasn't the Jaguars because they lost. They won a meaningless game in Week 17. You're saying, but the quarterback, the quote unquote franchise quarterback, has lost 8 straight starts.
Right. Not a meaningless game. They were fighting for a playoff spot. But
well, I'll issue another correction, Mark. How about we don't give Trevor Lawrence a massive, historic contract?
Oh, that would be, if you can make bank corrections. What I really love the most is, you know, like when you're out in public with friends and like your partner corrects you in front of like not only your guy friends, but their significant other, and probably randos that think that they could be a better partner to your partner. Like, it's great to have Justin fill that role right here on our show. Like, it's that similar feeling of like, I'm going to jump in here and let hundreds of thousands of people know that you were incorrect about a fact that I'm looking at on the internet while you're trying to, free ball verbally to
entertain.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uplift.
It's beautiful.
That's a good point. When dynamic. My wife and I, we have a little bit of a lingo for that situation, or it'd be like,
yeah,
I'll go, hey babe, home team.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
And it's it's sharp enough and it's authoritarian enough, I think too.
I don't even need to explain to the audience what that means. It's just like, babe, home team. And she goes, yeah. But sometimes she has to say it to me also. But actually more I have to say it to her.
Equality. Like we're equal. Yeah. Like men and women they're very equal. So.
Well, that's one way to look at it. Some may say that women are better than men. But you don't say that. I do. All right, let's hit the news.
I'm getting there.
We needed it bad, because I believe some people was on suicide watch.
Lamar, man. Come on, man. I don't speak flippantly about that. It's 2024. All right, let's get to the news. Let's start. I thought it was actually funny. Let's start with the Raiders. This is also funny. Antonio Pierce is obviously in his first full season as head coach of the Raiders. He took over after doing well as the interim coach last season. The Raiders had a great win in week 2 in which Gardner Minshew played very well and made a bunch of big throws and kind of played like Gardner Minshew, the good version that you expect. Things didn't go as well in an ugly loss to the Panthers on Sunday. A stunning loss, really, considering everything that was going on around the Panthers before that game. Minshew ends up on the bench in favor of Aiden O'Connell and for the fourth quarter of that game. And on Monday, the reporters ask the head coach, is a change of quarterback possible? Here's what he had to say.
What did you see from Aiden in his limited spot duty there? I know you talked yesterday about just giving him a shot to see what he could do, but is there any chance whatsoever that gives you pause going forward?
Well, I just think, you look at how the game went. We're down by 2 scores or so. Let Aiden come in, see what he could do with the offense, move it. We're just trying to look for a spark.
Could that mean anything going forward? Or is it still Gardner, still the guy?
I think we got to give it to the players and just, evaluate everything from yesterday first.
Mark, I don't understand. I don't want to pile on, and everybody that's listening to the show knows I've had my doubts about Pierce since the beginning. But, they beat the Ravens on the road a week ago, Sunday, and Minshew was great. He was nails down the stretch, and he was connecting with Devontae Adams. He's not a star quarterback, but he's obviously someone that can be proficient when playing the game under control. How is Antonio Pierce now, after one loss, all of a sudden acting like he didn't know what he had in the first place with Minshew? Like, this seems like a coach who is way too given to change on a whim, and that's not how it works. And I have my doubts continue to mount here. I guess I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't, I think it's like, I would imagine the change isn't going to come now. Ian Rappaport said that it's not definitively happening at this point. I don't know why you go here, though. I'm with you on this. You kind of knew this is like one of the most obvious subplots of the 2024 season. We were going to come to a juncture where Antonio Pierce is going to waffle between Aiden O'Connell and Gardner Minshew. You are the organization, you are the coach, you are the front office that went into the season with two guys that you're not building your future around. I don't know why you move off of Minshew or even verbally, even conceptually, consider it to reporters. You're coming off the win 2 weeks ago. This wasn't a good Sunday. He is 6th in yardage, 5th in completion percentage, 12th in yards per attempt. That's pretty good compared to some of the quarterback play we're seeing early on in this weird season. Why are we even toying with this? You've got to deal with your locker room too. I don't know why if you're Pierce that you're even entertaining this. You stick with the guy until it gets so bad that there's nothing else you can do.
Just to clarify on the rap sheet reporting, he wrote on Twitter, the Raiders are sticking with Minshew, sources say, so no Aiden O'Connell just yet. So yeah, Minshew will be on the field, but I don't know. It feels to me that Pierce is probably now itching to make that switch, and be careful what you wish for, and don't be surprised if we get a flip-flop where we see these guys going back and forth. My feeling about the way Pierce is presenting here is as overly reactionary, which is the worst thing you want from a head coach. Fans are allowed to be that way, but when your coach is that way, that makes me nervous, and I think it should make Raiders fans nervous. All right, in other news. Speaking of quarterback news, let's talk some injury news. Sam Darnold coming off 4 touchdown passes for the Vikings in that blowout of the Texans. He got his knee rolled up on in that game. He had that knee checked out today, and there was no structural damage. It's a bone bruise, so he's expected to be part of the buildup and practice this week and full speed ahead in his big comeback season. The Chargers are not so lucky. Justin Herbert obviously aggravated that high ankle sprain, so we're going to see what that means. I'd be very surprised if we see Herbert next week, and who knows beyond that. They also lose offensive tackle Rashawn Slater to a strained pec. Their rookie tackle, left tackle Joe Alt, has a sprained MCL, and both will miss some time. And also safety Derwin James, he will miss 1 game. Suspension, though, not an injury, for repeatedly breaking player safety rules. When you do that, they put an eye on you, Mark, and then you hit a certain number of infractions or eye in the sky fails in the view of the league, and they come to get you. So they came and took a game check, and they lose their big-time safety. And yeah, go ahead.
Well, the game check doesn't affect us. These are all key players. Joe Alt is taller than some, lean-tos and teepees that you'd find in the woods, in old school woods, and he's very. He's been awesome for them. They're a grinded out type of team. You take away 2 tackles potentially and Justin Herbert. Not loving that.
I love, even at 50 years old, Mark, you continue to surprise me with your awe and wonder for how big offensive linemen are. You just love it. It comes up a lot more than one would expect on an NFL podcast that we've done 1,700 podcasts. It's still something that sticks with you. It's like I have an uncle, my Uncle Stu, that whenever he sees fireworks, he cries. It just gets him emotional. And that's what I'm for you. I would imagine when you see an offensive lineman and you see all 6'7", 320 of them, a tear runs down the cheek.
Yeah, because I'm not sure that 40 years from now these humans will be able to do this job, because it's those people right now are being weaned on video screens at age 6. They're not there's it's a corn-fed boy from Iowa. No one's corn-fed at this point. No one's doing farm work. They're on screens. They're gaming. So it's I'm not sure offensive linemen exist to this degree.
Wow.
A couple decades from now. How about that?
What an ominous postscript there from the Cess Dog in a big spot. All right. In other news, the Niners. I do not like this. Let's head to Germany. Head into Germany for an injury update. Never something that you want. Christian McCaffrey is seeing a specialist in Germany. to look at his troublesome Achilles issue that he's dealing with. We will figure out what's wrong with your Achilles. That's probably a conversation he's having right now.
Yes.
But ominous, speaking of ominous, that doesn't sound great. Jordan Mason obviously is filled in well for McCaffrey, but the Niners need their dude, the reigning offensive player of the year. Also, Javon Hargrave is out for the year, season-ending triceps injury, and Brock Purdy, who, by the way, played damn well.
Yes, he did. Completely
lost in the Rams' comeback and another Niners collapse there on Sunday at SoFi, but Purdy played great in that game. He is day-to-day with back tightness, but hopefully he'll be all good. That's what's happening in the news.
I like the idea of going to Europe to have your body looked at. I think that
see what the way you say it though. There's something almost, I don't know. Justin?
What? It's a maintenance scenario, and I think
you a sex addiction. You got a problem with sex?
No.
Sex? You addicted to sex? A sex addiction or something?
The two of you trying to come from that angle is concerning to me, because I think it's like there's a long, storied history of traveling across the ocean to have the best possible care.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure, Mark. Where you like to go, Amsterdam?
You know, like I'm not even going to entertain the question. This is a sports analysis podcast. That's what I'm talking about is athleticism in sports.
All right, by the way.
We're going to smoke your weed.
By the way, this is obviously just the beginning of another week for Heed the Call. Connor Orr will be back with us Wednesday morning. We'll preview Giants Cowboys and have some fun with Connor. Then we'll have the Thursday preview show with Jordan and Mike. TNF recap later that night, and you get a little doubleheader from Heed the Call, and of course the Sunday night flagship program with Connor and Gravedigger. And also, do not forget that Heed the Call has a Patreon offshoot, patreon.com/Heed the Call, and you can get the Friday morning draft of the games we will cover. We have a lot of fun doing that. Also, you have the latest Throwback podcast exclusive now to the Patreon, where we looked at the 2009 VMAs. Coming up later this week, I think Rolling Thunder is making its debut, Mark. Is that correct?
I believe it is.
My goodness.
Yeah, no, it's going to be a nice surprise. I also have a newsletter that will appear at some point. That's crept up on me during the busy NFL season, so I'll be working on that as the midnight oil burns. Maybe hire like an intern to help me write part of that. But that's gonna be released as well.
Usually when people hire someone to ghostwrite their content, the whole idea is not to share with the audience that it's ghostwritten, but now the cat's out of the bag, thus lowering potentially the value of the article itself. But what's done is done. It cannot be edited. Justin, anything else?
Yeah, you mentioned the Throwback podcast, looking at the VMAs, and I just wanted to say on my drive back from Vegas, late Saturday night / early Sunday morning, driving back from Vegas at 2 a.m., 4-hour drive, deliriously tired. The thing that got us home while I was driving was listening to the Throwback podcast, starting with that episode. And it is a great listen. Highly encouraged. Highly recommend it.
Thank you, Justin. It crossed my mind. You mentioned that on Sunday night before we taped. You said, hey, I'm driving back from the desert. We were listening to Throwback Pod, and then you mentioned that you had done like a Britney episode, so we found that and listened to that. But, Mark, he didn't mention like we enjoyed it. He just mentioned that he listened to it, and I was like, well, did he not like it? But now I have the proof. He now has followed up with a comment that they enjoyed it, so now I feel much better about that.
Justin, can I just give you a piece of advice? When you discuss anything regarding Dan's activities, accomplishments, artistic endeavors, or personality, be very thorough. Be very thorough, because he's spent the last day plus, that was more than a day ago, experiencing enjoyment. He was thinking about, he was parsing your comments, and I could tell they were complimentary. Something about Dan did not allow it to go to that place.
Obviously, if we listened to the entire podcast and then went back in the archives and found another one to keep listening to you guys, and you
cracked the door open just enough where the doubt had flooded into my room and into my thoughts. But now I'm so happy to hear that, and maybe you, the listening audience, will also enjoy the Throwback Podcast with Bob Castron and I. So thank you, Justin. That's very nice of you.
Of course.
All right. That's it. See you on Wednesday. Congratulations to Commanders fans. Jaguars fans, sorry about your bad luck. Until next time, heed the call.